"No one ever kissed me," said the Apache girl. The cowboy bent down and did it. The sun hung low over the wide, open plains, casting long golden shadows across the dusty land. The air was dry and warm, carrying the faint smell of sagebrush and wildflowers. Near the edge of a small frontier town, a young Apache girl sat on the soft grass by the riverbank, her bare feet dangling just above the water. She was not very tall, and her dark hair, tied into two neat braids, glimmered like threads of night in the sunlight. Her eyes were bright and curious, reflecting the endless sky and the freedom that stretched across the plains. She had grown up here, on the borders of the town and the desert, and had seen many things. The world was full of people passing by, horses galloping, and the distant sound of wagons on the dusty roads. But she had never left her little home, and most of her days were spent exploring the land near her family's small cabin, or helping her mother gather herbs and wild fruits. Life was simple, but her heart often felt a quiet emptiness. She had friends among the children of the town, but she sometimes felt different from them, as though a part of her longed for something she had not yet discovered. On that particular afternoon, she leaned forward, her chin resting on her hands, and watched a group of cowboys riding slowly across the prairie. Their hats were wide, their shirts dusty, and their boots scratched from the long journey across the plains. The cowboys moved with confidence, speaking to each other in low voices, laughing and shouting as their horses kicked up clouds of dust. To the girl, they seemed like figures from a story, brave, daring, and free. She had seen cowboys before, passing through the town or stopping for water at the river. But today was different. Something about the way they rode made her heart beat faster. Among the group, one cowboy stood out. He was older than the others, with lines on his face that told of many years under the sun and wind. His hands were strong, but there was a gentleness in the way he guided his horse. His eyes, dark and thoughtful, seemed to notice the girl sitting quietly by the river. He nodded slightly as he passed, and she felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. It was the first time anyone had looked at her with that kind of attention, and it made her both nervous and excited. She had always been shy, speaking only when necessary, but something about this cowboy made her want to say more. She watched as he rode away, the dust settling behind him, and she felt a mixture of longing and curiosity.
Who was he?
Where had he come from? And why did he look at her like that? She tried to push the questions aside, but they kept returning, swirling in her mind like the wind through the tall grass. Her life was filled with small routines. In the mornings, she would help her mother prepare food, collect water from the river, and tend to the small garden behind their cabin. She learned about the plants and animals of the land, and her mother taught her how to respect the earth and listen to its quiet messages. The girl loved these lessons, but she also dreamed of seeing the world beyond the hills. She wanted adventure, excitement, and perhaps even friendship that went deeper than the casual greetings she exchanged with other children. As the sun climbed higher, she wandered closer to the town, moving carefully to avoid being seen by the adults who might scold her for straying too far. She watched the streets, where merchants sold goods from wagons and children ran in the dust, playing games that made laughter echo in the warm air. And there, on the edge of the town square, she saw him again, the cowboy from the riverbank. He was tying his horse to a post, his movements calm and deliberate. He glanced around, as if taking in the town, and then his eyes found hers. She quickly looked away, her cheeks warming. But when she dared to peek again, he was still watching, a faint smile on his face. Curiosity pulled her forward. She wanted to know more about him, to understand why he seemed different from the others. Gathering her courage, she stepped into the sunlight, feeling the heat on her skin and the pulse of her heart in her chest. He noticed her immediately and walked over slowly, his boots crunching on the dusty ground. "Hello there," he said in a voice that was low and kind. "I haven't seen you around here before. What's your name?" The girl hesitated, but then replied softly, "I'm Naya." She had never spoken to a stranger like this before, especially one who seemed so confident and friendly. She felt her heart racing, but she tried to stay calm, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm Sam," the cowboy said, tipping his hat slightly. "Nice to meet you, Naya. You live around here?"
Yes, she answered.
"Just near the river." Her words were simple, but they carried a sense of pride in the place she called home. "I like watching the river. The water is always moving, like it has stories to tell." Sam nodded, as if he understood completely. "It does have stories," he said, "and sometimes it tells them to the right person at the right time." His words made her smile, though she wasn't entirely sure what he meant. Still, there was something comforting in the way he spoke, honest, gentle, and patient. For the next hour, they talked quietly. Naya asked about the horses, the long journeys, and the life of a cowboy. Sam told her small tales of the open plains, of nights under the stars, and of adventures he had encountered far from the town. He didn't brag or exaggerate. He simply shared his experiences in a way that made her feel as if she were riding alongside him on the wide, open land. Naya realized that she was smiling more than she had in a long time. She felt a spark of excitement, a feeling she could not describe fully, but knew was important. It was not just curiosity, it was a connection, a small bridge between her quiet world and his wandering one. And for the first time, she found herself speaking openly, sharing thoughts she had never told anyone else. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, casting warm orange and pink hues across the sky, Sam stood and stretched. "I should be moving on," he said, his voice soft but tinged with reluctance. "The plains don't wait for anyone, and there's always somewhere to go." Naya felt a pang of disappointment but tried to hide it. "Will you come back?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sam looked at her thoughtfully. "Maybe," he said. "If the river brings me back this way, I'll be sure to stop." He smiled again, a small, kind smile that made her heart flutter. Then, with a gentle nod, he mounted his horse and rode away, leaving Naya standing on the edge of the town, watching the dust swirl where he had been. As night fell and the stars began to twinkle in the vast, dark sky, Naya walked back to her small cabin. She felt different somehow, as if a door had opened in her heart. The encounter with the cowboy had awakened something new, a sense of wonder, courage, and possibility. For the first time, she realized that the world was bigger than her little routines, and that connections could happen in the most unexpected ways. Sitting by the fireplace that evening, she thought about the river, the plains, and the cowboy who had stopped to speak with her. She whispered to herself, "No one ever kissed me." The words were not sad, they were simply an honest truth, a small confession of a heart that had not yet known certain joys. But she felt a strange comfort in saying them aloud, as if the night itself had heard and understood. Naya closed her eyes and imagined the wide open plains stretching beyond the horizon, the warm wind on her face, and the gentle eyes of the cowboy. She did not know what the future held, or whether he would return, but she knew that something inside her had changed. She had discovered curiosity, courage, and a tiny spark of connection, things that could not be taken away, no matter how far the plains stretched or how long the days might be. And so, as the stars shone brightly over the quiet town, Naya dreamed. She dreamed of adventures she had never had, of friendships she had never known, and perhaps, one day, of the simple courage it took to meet someone's gaze and speak her heart. The river flowed steadily, whispering its ancient stories, and for the first time she felt that she might be ready to listen, and perhaps to be part of a story all her own. The morning after the cowboy had ridden away, Naya woke to the soft light of the sun spilling through the small window of her cabin. The air smelled of fresh dew and earth, and she could hear the faint gurgle of the river nearby. Her heart still carried the memory of Sam's gentle eyes, the way he had smiled, and the way he had spoken so kindly to her. She sat quietly, brushing her hair into neat braids, and wondered if he would really return. Part of her told her it was just a fleeting encounter, a single bright moment in the endless stretch of her quiet life. But another part, the part that dared to dream, whispered that perhaps this was only the beginning. After helping her mother with breakfast and gathering water from the river, Naya decided to venture further into the open fields than she ever had before. The plains stretched endlessly, dotted with wildflowers, sagebrush, and tall grass swaying gently in the morning breeze. Birds called to one another from high in the trees, and the distant mountains glowed with soft shades of pink and gold. Naya walked carefully, her eyes scanning the horizon, imagining the cowboy riding along the trails she had never dared to follow. She felt an unfamiliar mixture of courage and excitement, the kind that made her heart beat faster and her steps lighter. As she wandered, she thought about the stories Sam had told her the day before. He had spoken of nights under the stars, of riding across deserts and hills, and of towns where the streets were always busy with people from faraway places. The stories seemed so different from her life, yet they were not frightening. Instead, they made her feel as though the world was alive with possibilities, and that she might one day be part of it. Naya imagined herself riding beside him, laughing as the wind whipped through her hair, feeling the freedom of the plains as he had described it. Lost in her daydreams, she did not notice how far she had walked. The sun was high overhead now, and the grass grew taller and wilder. Suddenly, a faint sound of horses' hooves reached her ears. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be him returning just as he had promised? She held her breath and strained her eyes toward the horizon. In the distance, a small group of riders appeared, moving slowly along the trail. Among them she recognized Sam, his dark hat and gentle face unmistakable even from afar. Excitement and nervousness filled her at once. She wanted to run to him, but she stopped herself, remembering the stories her mother had told her about caution and patience. Instead, she walked toward him slowly, keeping her hands clasped in front of her, trying to look confident even though her heart raced. As Sam drew closer, he noticed her immediately. His eyes lit up with recognition, and he lifted a hand in greeting. Naya felt a warm smile spread across her face, and she returned the gesture shyly. When he finally dismounted, he approached her with careful steps, as if not to startle her. "I promised I might come back," he said, his voice calm and steady, "and here I am." Naya's chest tightened with joy, but she nodded quietly, unsure how to speak the flood of thoughts racing through her mind. She noticed the kind look in his eyes, the way he seemed to carry both strength and gentleness at the same time. It was a feeling she had never known, a mix of trust, curiosity, and excitement. Sam led his horse to a nearby tree and tied it securely, then turned his full attention to Naya. They began to walk together along the winding trail that followed the river's edge. At first, they spoke of simple things: the weather, the flowers, the river's soft murmur. Naya asked about his travels, and Sam shared small tales of the plains, of sunsets so vast that they seemed to touch the mountains, and nights so quiet that even the stars seemed to listen. His words painted pictures in her mind, and she felt as if she were seeing the world through new eyes, eyes that could discover beauty in every corner. As they walked, Naya noticed how different he was from everyone she had ever met. He did not rush her, nor did he judge her. He listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and shared his own stories without boasting. She felt comfortable around him in a way she had never felt with anyone else. Slowly, she began to open up, sharing her thoughts and dreams, her fears and questions about the world. She told him how she loved the river, how she often imagined adventures beyond the hills, and how she sometimes felt lonely despite having family and friends. Sam listened patiently, nodding and encouraging her to speak more. "It's not wrong to dream, Naya," he said gently. "The world is wide, and there's a place for people who dare to imagine it." His words made her heart flutter. She realized she had never spoken so openly to anyone before, and yet it felt natural, almost easy, to share her heart with him. The connection between them grew stronger with each step, each shared story, and each quiet laugh that escaped her lips. After some time, they came to a small clearing by the river, where the sunlight danced on the water, making it sparkle like 1,000 tiny stars. Naya sat on a flat rock, dipping her toes into the cool water. Sam sat beside her, leaning back on his hands, watching the river flow. The air was filled with the gentle hum of nature, birds singing, the water lapping against the rocks, and the wind rustling through the trees. Naya felt a sense of peace and belonging she had never experienced before. As the afternoon passed, the conversation took a more personal turn. Naya hesitated for a moment, then spoke softly, almost as if testing the waters. "No one ever kissed me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked down at her hands, afraid to meet his gaze, but curious about his reaction. Sam's expression changed, showing a mixture of surprise, thoughtfulness, and a gentle warmth. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at her with kindness, as if weighing his words carefully. "That's all right," he said finally, his voice calm. "There's a first time for everything, and it should be something that feels right." His words made her heart race. There was no judgment, no rush, only understanding and patience. For a while they sat in quiet companionship, letting the river's soft sounds and the gentle breeze carry their thoughts. Naya felt a strange new emotion growing inside her, a mix of courage, hope, and anticipation. She realized that her feelings for Sam were not simply curiosity, they were deeper, though she didn't yet fully understand them. She had never experienced this closeness with anyone, and it both excited and scared her. As the sun began to dip lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Sam stood up. "I should be moving on soon," he said, his voice tinged with reluctance. Naya's heart sank slightly, but she held her head high, trying not to show her disappointment. "Will you come back?" she asked, her voice soft but steady, carrying a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Sam smiled gently, reaching out to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I'll come back, Naya," he said. "The river has a way of bringing people together when the time is right." His words gave her a sense of comfort, a feeling that this connection was not fleeting, but something worth cherishing. Before he left, Sam handed her a small piece of leather tied with a thin cord. "Keep this," he said. "It's nothing fancy, but it's a reminder that the world is bigger than this town, and that courage and kindness can be found in the most unexpected places." Naya accepted it with both hands, her heart swelling with gratitude. She felt a bond forming, something that could not be explained by words alone. A quiet promise of future adventures and shared moments. As Sam rode away once more, Naya watched until he became a small figure on the horizon. the dust rising behind him like a fleeting memory. She felt a mixture of sadness and excitement, knowing that their story was just beginning. She walked back along the riverbank, the leather piece clutched tightly in her hands, thinking about the river, the plains, and the cowboy who had opened a door to something new. That evening, as the sky darkened and stars began to shine, Naya sat by the fireplace in her small cabin. She traced the cord around her fingers, feeling the soft leather beneath her touch, and whispered to herself, "No one ever kissed me, but maybe someday that will change." She smiled softly, a quiet determination in her heart. For the first time, she felt that the world held more than her small routines, and that courage and curiosity could lead to experiences she had only dreamed of. Naya went to sleep that night with a sense of wonder and anticipation. She dreamed of wide-open plains, of rivers flowing endlessly, of the cowboy with the kind eyes, and of adventures yet to come. She knew that the days ahead would be filled with new experiences, new stories, and perhaps new connections that could change her life forever. The river whispered its gentle secrets outside her window, and she felt ready to listen, to live, to explore, and to grow. The days after Sam had left returned Naya to her usual routines, but her mind was far from ordinary. Each morning she would rise early, wash her face with the cool river water, and listen to the wind whispering through the tall grass. The small cabin she shared with her mother felt quieter than before, though not lonely. It was filled with the echo of memories she could not stop thinking about. Every sound, every movement on the plains seemed to carry a story, a reminder of the cowboy with the kind eyes who had briefly entered her life. Naya often found herself staring at the horizon, imagining Sam's silhouette against the endless sky, imagining the feel of the wind as he rode across the plains. She wanted more than just these imagined moments. She wanted to see him again, to hear his stories, to share more of her thoughts and feelings. But the question lingered in her heart: would he truly come back? Or had their encounter been just a fleeting moment in the vastness of the frontier? One bright morning, while collecting water near the riverbank, Naya saw a familiar dust cloud rising in the distance. Her heart leapt. Could it be? As she stepped closer, she realized that it was indeed Sam, riding slowly toward her with the same gentle expression she had remembered. This time he seemed more relaxed, less hurried, as if the river had guided him directly to her. Naya ran a few steps forward, her braids bouncing with each movement, and stopped a short distance away, unsure whether to call out or remain quiet. Sam dismounted and approached her carefully. "Hello, Naya," he said, his voice calm yet carrying a warmth that made her chest swell with happiness. "I told you I would come back." His words were simple, but they carried a promise, a reassurance that lingered in the warm morning air. Naya smiled shyly. "I hoped you would," she admitted. I... I missed you." She had not expected to speak such words, and her cheeks flushed as she said them. Sam's eyes softened, and he nodded. "I missed you too," he said quietly. "The plains are wide, but I couldn't stop thinking about our last meeting. There are few moments in life that feel as true as that one." For a while they walked together along the riverbank, talking about the changes in the land, the animals they saw, and the movement of the clouds overhead. Naya noticed how much she looked forward to his words, the way he shared his thoughts without pressure or pretense. She found herself laughing more freely, feeling a lightness she had never known before. The connection between them seemed to grow with each passing moment, not through grand gestures, but through quiet attention and understanding. As the day wore on, they moved further into the plains, where the grass grew taller and the river widened into palm pools reflecting the bright sky. Naya listened as Sam spoke about distant towns, nights under open skies, and the many people he had met along the way. His stories were filled with wonder and sometimes danger, yet they never seemed frightening to her. Instead, they inspired a sense of courage, a desire to explore and learn more about the world. Naya began to share more about herself, things she had never spoken to anyone else. She told him about her favorite spots along the river, the songs she sang to the birds, and the dreams she held for the future. Sam listened attentively, never interrupting, never judging, only encouraging her to continue. Naya realized that she trusted him more than anyone she had ever met, and that the bond between them was growing stronger with each shared story. After walking for hours, they reached a small hill overlooking the river. From this vantage point, the plains stretched endlessly, the mountains in the distance appearing soft and inviting under the afternoon sun. Naya felt a sense of awe and freedom she had never experienced before. The world seemed larger, brighter, and filled with endless possibilities. She turned to Sam, who was watching her with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever feel small?" she asked quietly, "like the world is too big for you to make a difference?" Her words carried a vulnerability she rarely allowed anyone to see. Sam looked at her and smiled gently.
"Sometimes," he admitted, "but the world doesn't expect us to be everything at once."
We take small steps, and over time, those steps shape who we are and where we go. Courage is not about being fearless. It's about moving forward, even when you feel small. Naya considered his words carefully. There was truth in them that resonated deeply within her. For the first time, she felt a spark of confidence, a belief that she could face challenges and explore beyond the boundaries of her small world. She looked out over the plains again, breathing in the wind, and felt a quiet determination growing inside her. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of gold and pink, Naya and Sam sat together on the hill, letting the beauty of the landscape settle into their hearts. The river below shimmered like liquid light, and the air was filled with the soft rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds returning to their nests. It was a perfect moment of peace and connection, and Naya felt her heart swell with emotion she could not yet name. Finally, she spoke softly, almost as if testing the air. I feel like I can tell you anything," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've never felt this way before." Sam turned to her, his eyes filled with understanding. "And you can," he said gently. "I'm here to listen, nothing more. Whatever you feel, whatever you want to share, it's safe with me." For the first time in her life, Naya felt completely unguarded. She spoke of her dreams to see distant towns, to learn about the animals and plants beyond her home, and even her quiet fear that she might never find someone who truly understood her. Sam listened with care, never interrupting, nodding and offering soft words of encouragement. She realized that this kind of connection, one built on trust, kindness, and patience, was rare, and she cherished it deeply. As the sky darkened, the first stars beginning to shine, Naya and Sam remained on the hill, sharing silence as much as conversation. It was a comfortable silence, filled with unspoken understanding, a sense that words were not always necessary to feel connected. The air grew cooler, but Naya did not notice. She felt warm inside, her heart full of hope, courage, and a longing for what might come next. Before leaving, Sam handed her a small, smooth stone he had picked up along the trail. "Keep this," he said. "It's a reminder that even when I'm not here, the world carries moments that connect us. Courage, kindness, and friendship can appear in unexpected places. Naya accepted it carefully, feeling the smooth surface under her fingers, and nodded with a mixture of gratitude and pride. As Sam mounted his horse to continue his journey, Naya felt a mix of emotions: sadness that he might leave again, but also a quiet excitement for the future. She knew that their story was unfolding slowly, that there were moments of patience and discovery ahead. She waved as he rode away, watching until he became a small figure on the distant trail. Even as the dust settled behind him, she felt a connection that no distance could erase. That night, back at her cabin, Naya placed the stone beside her bed. She traced it with her fingers, thinking of the plains, the river, and the cowboy who had opened a door to courage and understanding. She whispered to herself, "Maybe the world is bigger than I thought, and maybe I'm ready to find my place in it." For the first time, she slept with a feeling of anticipation rather than longing, knowing that adventures, stories, and connections awaited her just beyond the horizon. And as she dreamed under the soft glow of the moonlight, Naya imagined herself walking beside Sam across the plains, sharing laughter, stories, and quiet moments that carried the weight of understanding and trust. She realized that courage was not about doing something grand or dangerous. It was about opening her heart, speaking honestly, and embracing moments of connection when they appeared. The river whispered its gentle secrets outside her window, and she felt ready to listen, to learn, to explore, and to grow in ways she had never imagined before. The days that followed were filled with quiet anticipation. Naya spent each morning walking along the river, thinking of Sam, imagining him riding across the plains, wondering when she might see him again. Her heart had grown used to the idea of waiting, yet each passing hour brought both longing and hope. The plains, which had once seemed vast and empty, now felt alive with possibility. Every rustle of grass, every bird song seemed to carry a message from the world, whispering that something extraordinary might happen soon. One late afternoon, as the sun began to turn the sky a warm shade of gold, Naya noticed a familiar dust cloud rising in the distance. Her heart leapt, and she ran forward, the tall grass brushing against her legs. Could it really be him again? The closer he came, the more she recognized the familiar silhouette of Sam riding steadily across the plains. He waved, and her cheeks warmed as she waved back, unable to hide the excitement that coursed through her veins. When he reached her, Sam dismounted with his usual calm and gentle manner. "Naya," he said with a soft smile, "I promised I'd return, and here I am." Naya felt a rush of warmth in her chest. Seeing him again made the world feel brighter, as if the plains themselves had been waiting for this moment. She smiled shyly but brightly, feeling a sense of courage she had never known before. They walked together along the river, their conversation starting with the ordinary: the patterns of birds in the sky, the movement of fish in the water, the beauty of the wildflowers along the riverbank. But as they walked, Naya noticed that Sam's voice had a different tone today, quieter, more thoughtful, as if he carried words he had been waiting to say. She felt her curiosity rise, wondering what he might share, yet part of her also felt a nervous flutter in her stomach. Finally, they reached a secluded spot along the river, a small clearing surrounded by tall trees, whose branches swayed gently in the evening breeze. The water sparkled like liquid gold in the light of the setting sun, and the air was warm but calm. Naya sat on a smooth, flat rock near the water's edge, her toes brushing the cool surface, while Sam stood a short distance away, looking out over the river. There was a quiet tension in the air, a sense that something important was about to happen, though neither spoke for several long moments. Naya's mind raced with questions and feelings she could not fully name. She remembered the days she had spent imagining him returning, the words she had whispered to herself at night, the small stone he had given her. And now here he was, standing near her, close enough to touch, yet holding back, letting the moment unfold. Naturally, the silence was not uncomfortable. It was filled with anticipation, a delicate balance between courage and patience. Finally, Sam took a small step toward her. "Naya," he began, his voice calm and steady, "I've been thinking about you since I left. Every day, I've remembered our talks, your stories, your thoughts."
Everything about you. You've shown me a part of life I hadn't realized I was missing.
Naya's heart raced. His words were simple but carried a depth she had not expected. She wanted to respond, to tell him how she felt, yet the words seemed too small for the emotions swelling inside her. Seeing her hesitation, Sam knelt down on one knee so that his eyes met hers directly. The movement was gentle, deliberate, and respectful. "I know you've never experienced this before," he said softly. "And I want you to know that you are safe, that I care, and that whatever happens next is because it feels right for both of us." His gaze was warm, steady, and full of patience. Naya felt a rush of trust and courage flood through her. She realized that this moment, which she had imagined countless times, was finally real. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. I don't know what to say," she admitted, her cheeks flushing. "Everything feels different." Sam smiled gently. "You don't need to say anything," he reassured her. "Just feel what's here, and let it guide you." Naya took a deep breath, feeling the cool evening air fill her lungs, and looked into his eyes. There was no judgment, no rush, only understanding and care. The river's gentle murmur filled the quiet space between them, and Naya felt a surge of courage. She realized that this moment was about trust, honesty, and connection. Slowly, she leaned forward, her eyes never leaving Sam's. He responded with the same gentle movement, bridging the small distance between them. And then, in a quiet, tender gesture, he bent down and kissed her on the lips. The moment was soft, simple, and profound. It was not hurried or dramatic, but it carried a depth that words could not capture. Naya's heart leapt, her chest swelling with emotions she had never felt before. It was a moment of courage, trust, and awakening. Sam's hands rested lightly, not to hold her in place, but to offer reassurance, and Naya felt a warmth and safety she had never known. Time seemed to stand still in that golden light of the evening. The river glimmered beside them, the wind whispered softly through the trees, and the sky glowed with the fading colors of sunset. Naya realized that this simple act, a kiss, a moment of closeness, carried with it the weight of trust, courage, and connection. She had shared her heart, and it had been met with care and understanding. For the first time, she felt truly seen, truly valued, and truly alive in a way she had never imagined. When they finally pulled back slightly, Naya's cheeks were flushed, and her eyes shone with a mixture of excitement, relief, and wonder. Sam smiled gently, his eyes reflecting the same warmth and connection.
You were brave, he said softly.
"And I'm honored to share this moment with you." Naya nodded, words failing her, but her heart full. She realized that bravery was not always about bold actions or grand adventures. Sometimes it was about trusting another person, opening one's heart, and allowing a connection to form naturally. They remained there for a while, sitting side by side, watching the last light of the sun disappear behind the distant mountains. The world around them was quiet, peaceful, and perfect in its simplicity. Naya felt a deep sense of belonging, not just to the land, but to the moment, to the connection she shared with Sam. It was a feeling of trust and intimacy, the kind that could not be rushed or forced, only experienced and cherished. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Sam stood and offered Naya his hand. "It's getting late," he said. "We should head back before it gets too dark." Naya took his hand, feeling a comforting warmth, and together they walked back along the river, their steps light and unhurried. The world seemed to glow under the soft light of the rising moon, and the quiet murmur of the river accompanied them like a gentle song. That night, back at her cabin, Naya sat by the fireplace, the memory of the kiss lingering in her mind. She traced the small stone Sam had given her, feeling its smooth surface, and whispered softly, "I am brave. I am ready." For the first time, she felt a sense of completeness, a recognition that life could hold both adventure and tenderness, courage and trust, even in the quietest of places. As she drifted to sleep, Naya dreamed of the plains, the river, and the gentle presence of Sam. She knew that the world was larger than her cabin, that connections could appear in unexpected ways, and that courage often came in small, tender moments. She felt ready for whatever the future might hold, knowing that trust, understanding, and kindness could guide her through every step of her journey. And so, under the glow of the stars, Naya's heart was full. She had discovered the power of connection, the courage to embrace her feelings, and the joy of a shared moment that would remain with her forever. The river whispered its soft secrets outside her window, and she felt a quiet certainty. Some moments, no matter how simple, could change a life in ways that lasted forever. The next morning the plains were calm and golden, the sunlight spilling across the river like liquid warmth. Naya awoke with a quiet sense of anticipation. The memory of the previous evening, the gentle kiss, the feeling of connection, the trust she had found, lingered in her heart. It was as though the world had opened a small door for her, allowing her to see not just the land around her, but the possibilities within herself. She dressed quickly, tying her braids neatly, and stepped outside into the crisp morning air. The river sparkled, the breeze whispered through the grass, and the plains seemed alive with quiet encouragement. Naya thought about Sam and the journey they had begun together, small as it was. She realized that courage was not a single act, but a series of choices. To be honest, to trust, to open her heart, and to embrace the unknown. For days, she had imagined what their time together might mean. But now, after the evening they had shared, she understood that connection could grow slowly, nurtured by patience, respect, and understanding. As she walked toward the river, she noticed a dust cloud in the distance. Her heart leapt. Sam was returning once again. The sight of him brought a warmth she could hardly contain. This time he rode with a calm confidence, yet there was a softness in his expression that made her feel at ease. He dismounted with the same careful gentleness he always showed, his eyes finding hers immediately. "Good morning, Naya," he said, smiling. "I couldn't wait to see you again." Naya's cheeks flushed with happiness. "Good morning, Sam," she replied softly. Her voice carried a mixture of excitement and quiet calm, a reflection of the confidence that had begun to grow within her. She realized that each meeting with him strengthened her courage and understanding of herself. She no longer felt timid or uncertain. Instead, she felt ready to embrace the moments life offered, even if they were small or fleeting. They walked together along the riverbank, sharing quiet conversation about the land, the animals, and the movement of the clouds. Naya told Sam about her observations of the birds nesting near the river and the way the water reflected the sky in colors that changed with the day. Sam listened attentively, offering gentle encouragement and thoughtful responses. He shared stories of the plains, the small towns he had visited, and the adventures he had experienced on long journeys. The stories were not boastful or grandiose. They were simple, honest, and full of life. As the day wore on, they reached a small hill that overlooked the river and the wide plains beyond. From this vantage point, Naya felt the vastness of the world more deeply than ever before. The mountains in the distance seemed soft and welcoming under the afternoon sun, and the sky stretched endlessly, dotted with birds soaring in the gentle breeze. Sam sat beside her on the rock, their shoulders almost touching, and for a while neither spoke. The silence was not empty. It was filled with understanding, respect, and the quiet joy of being together. Finally, Naya spoke, her voice soft but steady. "Sam, I feel like I understand myself better when I'm with you, like I can be brave and honest and not be afraid." Her words carried a depth she had never expressed before, a reflection of the growth she had experienced over the past days. Sam turned to her, his eyes warm and full of gentle encouragement. "That's wonderful, Naya," he said. "Courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about trusting yourself and taking the steps that matter, even when fear is there." They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the nearby fields, observing the wildflowers and listening to the gentle murmur of the river. Naya felt a growing sense of joy in the simplicity of the moment. She realized that life did not always need grand adventures to be meaningful. Sometimes the quiet connections and shared experiences held the most profound impact. Each step they took together reinforced her confidence and deepened the bond they shared. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold, pink, and soft lavender, Naya and Sam returned to the riverbank. They sat side by side, watching the water shimmer in the fading light. The world felt calm, peaceful, and perfectly balanced. Naya's thoughts wandered to the days ahead, imagining the adventures they might share, the stories they could create, and the continued growth of trust and understanding between them. Sam turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "Naya, the time we've spent together has been special," he said softly. "I want you to know that no matter where life takes us, I will always remember these moments. You've shown me courage, kindness, and honesty, and I am grateful for every bit of it." Naya felt a wave of warmth in her chest, her eyes glistening slightly. She realized that their connection was not just about affection, but about mutual respect, growth, and the recognition of each other's hearts. The evening grew cooler, and the first stars began to appear in the sky. Naya and Sam walked slowly back toward her cabin, their footsteps light on the soft earth. Along the way, they talked about dreams, hopes, and the things they wished to learn from the world. Naya shared her desire to explore new places, to meet new people, and to see the beauty of the plains beyond her small town. Sam encouraged her, reminding her that curiosity, courage, and patience were keys to discovering life's wonders. When they reached the cabin, Naya's mother stepped outside, greeting Sam with a polite smile. She had observed their growing connection with quiet approval, recognizing the respect and care that existed between them. Naya felt a sense of pride in her heart, knowing that she had grown not just in courage, but in the ability to form meaningful, respectful relationships. As night fell, Naya and Sam sat together near the fire. The flames flickered softly, casting warm light across their faces. They spoke quietly about the days to come, about the river, the plains, and the adventures they hoped to experience. Naya realized that life was no longer a series of empty routines. It was full of stories waiting to be lived, moments waiting to be cherished, and connections waiting to deepen. Before leaving, Sam handed Naya a small bundle of dried flowers he had picked along the trail. "These are for you," he said gently. "A reminder that even in simple things, beauty and meaning can be found, and that courage, like flowers, grows when it is nurtured. Naya accepted the flowers with both hands, feeling their delicate fragrance and the care in his gesture. She placed them beside the stone he had given her, a tangible reminder of their connection and the journey they had begun together. As Sam rode away once more, Naya waved, feeling a mixture of longing and joy. She knew that life would continue, that days would pass, and that the plains would stretch endlessly before her. But she also knew that she had changed. She had discovered courage, trust, and the power of connection. She had learned that bravery was not about grand actions, but about opening one's heart and embracing the moments that mattered most. That night, Naya sat by her window looking out at the river and the stars above. The moonlight reflected on the water, creating a path of silver that seemed to stretch into infinity. She whispered softly to herself, "The world is bigger than I thought, and I am ready." The words carried a sense of certainty and calm, a recognition that her journey was only beginning. She felt the warmth of the fire, the soft rustling of the trees, and the quiet strength within herself, knowing that she could face whatever lay ahead. In the days that followed, Naya continued to explore the river, the plains, and the small town. She carried with her the lessons she had learned, that courage comes in quiet moments, that connections are built through trust and respect, and that even the simplest gestures can leave a lasting impact. The stone, the flowers, and the memory of Sam's gentle presence reminded her daily that life could be both simple and extraordinary, filled with moments of beauty, understanding, and joy. As seasons changed and the plains shifted from golden summer to soft autumn, Naya reflected on how much she had grown. She no longer felt the quiet loneliness that had once filled her heart. Instead, she felt a sense of purpose, a belief in her ability to face challenges, and a recognition that meaningful connections could shape her life in ways she had never imagined. The river flowed steadily, carrying its ancient stories, and Naya felt ready to embrace them, knowing that each new day held the promise of discovery, friendship, and courage. And so, life went on. Naya carried the lessons of trust, patience, and bravery into everything she did. She remembered the cowboy with the kind eyes, the gentle kiss that marked a moment of courage, and the river that had become a place of reflection and hope. Her heart was full, her spirit strong, and her mind open to the endless possibilities the world offered.